So you're an international student and you're coming to Halifax and you're wondering what are the best places to eat in Halifax. My name's Nader Najad and I make videos for international students and students of all walks of life all around the world through my online courses on Udemy and through my YouTube videos providing free value for you, leaving that value dripping on the table. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about the best places to eat in Halifax, in my opinion. And the perks of watching me telling you the best places to eat is that I'm not an international student myself, but I have a diverse background. My dad is from Iran. He's Persian. My mom is, she's born and raised in England, so I have a bit of that, like, she has that European taste a little bit, so she likes the bangers and mash and chip butty and like Marmite and all this British stuff. But her parents are Guyanese. And Guyana was formerly a British colony, but I have a bunch of different mixes in there. Probably some Indian, a couple of other things. So I have an interesting background. I grew up eating all different sorts of food. Sometimes I go to a Chinese restaurant and they take my chopsticks away and I have to tell them, not only do I use chopsticks, but I'm ordering your intestines on your menu. So, and probably the chicken foot. I'm not saying that's what Chinese people eat every day, don't be silly. I'm just saying that, like, I will order the weird obscure food where they're like, okay, and then they realize, they ask me, they're like, hey, do you know what you're ordering? And I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm ordering. I grew up eating stuff like beef tongue, but I also grew up, you know, loving a good burger, enjoying great pizzas. I like all food from all different cultures. So I'm here to give you some really good advice on what you can get in Halifax depending on who you are, and this will be a complete guide. This video may run over 10 minutes because it's a topic I love, but by the end of it, I promise if you watch it through, you're gonna have such a comprehensive outlook on food in Halifax. Okay, let's talk about it. Enough explaining. Best food, hands down, in Halifax is hard to say. Let's start with the coffee shops. This is, for some reason, where a lot of students frequent. International students don't like expensive things. Coffee shops, expensive. Okay? Halifax has a bunch of these. We can look at places like The Nook. We can look at Coburg Coffee. We can look at Second Cup at Dalhousie or Tim Hortons, which is generally fairly priced when you're looking at Tim Hortons. McDonald's has its own cafe. But looking at some of the more local coffee shops, they're all pretty expensive. If you want a Canadian vibe, nice coffee shop with the best feel of Canada, and it's kind of touristy, it's very touristy, but if you just want a different feel and you want to feel like, hey, I'm in Halifax, then you don't want to be in like, kind of like a hipster cafe, I would recommend going to a place called The Cabin. I don't know if it's on Barrington, but look this stuff up. The Cabin, Halifax. It's near the waterfront, very Halifaxy. Inside, you can have a maple latte or a maple coffee, and again, very Canadian because it has maple syrup flavoring in it. I don't even know if it's real. Soups and sandwiches are okay priced. Now in Canada we would call them fairly priced, very reasonable, but if you're an international student paying like $12 for a coffee and a sandwich, well, it's not, it's not up your alley. I'm not saying you can't afford it, but like, food prices can be expensive at coffee shops, and it's not a thing I notice in a lot of different cultures traveling. They don't have very expensive coffee shops. I mean, it depends where you go, but for many countries they don't. So that's what I recommend. Coburg Coffee is a good one to, interact with a lot of students. You don't really get seating in there. It's very popular, but it's popular because it's a good place. There's a lot of fresh food because of the turnover. I also recommend The Nook. The Nook for the food menu. If you like coffee shops and cafes and you get into, working in there with your computer and you want food, especially if you're vegetarian, they have a lot of options at The Nook. Okay, we've covered coffee shops. I know there's a lot of other honorable mentions I could say, but I want to cover all the food in Halifax, and that needs a lot of talking. So let's talk about cuisine, and let's break it down a little bit. If you want, pub grub food, you want kind of like battered chips or battered fries, onion rings, like chicken, there's some really good places. If you want chicken wings, I recommend the Pint. The Pint has good chicken wings. There's a bunch of other places that do good chicken wings. I recommend you follow this Instagram page actually. Go follow Perks Halifax. Again, a friend of mine runs this page on Instagram called Perks Halifax. Not only does it give you deals on all the things in Halifax, but he posts about it frequently. And if you look at Perks Halifax right now, you're going to get a sense of what all the good restaurants are in the city. This guy knows his food. He knows Halifax. In many ways, he knows Halifax better than me. So go and follow him. Also, what I recommend you do is, ask yourself, like, what are you looking for? So if you're looking for pub food, try Dirty Nelly's actually, or try the Stubborn Goat Gastropub. These places are some of my favorites. Dirty Nelly's has a really nice vibe. There's another cheap one that's slipping my mind. Maxwell's Plum has some of the best deals in the city. You can get I think you can get like steak and eggs for breakfast for like $3. I don't have their menu on me right now, but you can get like all you can eat, not all you can eat, but like a giant platter of chicken wings. My mouth is watering for like $8. I'm on a cut right now. I can't eat that stuff. Wow, that's tasty. Okay, so that's what I recommend you do. If you're vegetarian, there's vegetarian options at a lot of places. Probably not a pub. All you need to do is look up vegetarian places. There's quite a few of them. Taco Del Mar, you can do a vegetarian taco. Like I said, the coffee shops, you can do vegetarian stuff. Let's get into sushi. You're a sushi fan? You can't satisfy your sushi craving? I'm gonna give you a medium range sushi, meaning like it's okay. Like, if this was the best sushi and this was the worst sushi, this is probably backwards. We're still going to do it this way. Best sushi, worst sushi. There's a place called Wasabi House. And the sushi, if this is the middle, I'm a little bit like, I'm not fussy about food, but I'm a little bit particular. I'd say it's just below middle. But it's good. It's not like dried or something. It's not bad. Like, you eat it, you're like, whoa, that's good. Like, lots of sauce, like lots of fresh fish. It's very good. Wasabi House almost gives you all you can eat. You have to buy what, like the dishes that you're getting. My favorite are salmon toro, so torched salmon belly. I like the salmon. I like, even the California rolls aren't really like, they're kind of westernized. I like them deep fried. They're very good. This place it's packed, so packed. So the food is fresh. There is, again, Wasabi House. Google these places, write them down, save them. This place is going to give you probably the cheapest sushi at the highest quality. There's a couple of other sushi places. I've tried them, again, slipping my mind, but you will quickly find these places. Halifax is very small. I'm going to give you my main go-to so we can keep going through this. Let's get into Chinese food, Oriental cuisine. My favorite place, hands down, all of them are in Dartmouth. Dartmouth has the best ones. I'll tell you why. They do more traditional food. The menus are bigger. The staffs are bigger. I don't know why Dartmouth has so much more in terms of restaurants. And the food tends to be fresher. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems to be very busy in there. So also, I love my Beijing duck. I don't know where you're from, but if you're from Beijing or you're from China, you probably love your Beijing duck too. With hoisin sauce. I know it's pronounced differently, but it's just delicious. Like in that pancake, if you know what I'm talking about, you need to try Beijing duck. Do it in Dartmouth. Just look for, actually, I think it's called the Great Wall, but I could be completely, absolutely wrong. We're talking about Halifax, but in terms of Dartmouth, just call them, ask them if they do Beijing duck. If they do Beijing duck, they always know what they're doing. Comes in a 3-course meal, most delicious thing you'll eat in your life, pretty much. Though there's other delicious stuff, and we're gonna get into that. So basically in Halifax, for Oriental cuisine, let me start listing them. I recommend Yanjing Restaurant on Quinpool. Yanjing has a bunch of good options. They also do duck, they do traditional Chinese food. In fact, they have a whole menu section dedicated to traditional Chinese food, and their staff is Chinese, and for the most part they speak Chinese. It's authentic is what I'm saying. They also do like Canadian Chinese food, which isn't real, but again, I'm somebody who occasionally will eat a chicken ball and dip it in that sweet sauce. Who doesn't mind that? Yeah, so that's what I recommend, Yanjing. The rest are kind of slipping my mind. There's Jean's restaurant, pronounced Jane's. I don't really like it very much. It's It's on Spring Garden Road, and if you actually go inside the place, it's completely falling apart. I might be exaggerating a little bit. It's just pretty like dirty and barren inside. But they give you cheap food. So if you want to order to your house, it's probably the best delivery of Canadian Chinese food you can get. Again, for ginger beef or like your crunchy sweet and sour stuff, which again tickles my fancy once in a while. But when I go for Chinese food, I go for the traditional stuff. Now let's take a look at Hotpot, which comes in a bunch of different shapes and forms in places around the world. Hotpot is delicious. I was actually introduced to it by a friend in Halifax, and I never had Hotpot before. I've prided myself on trying everything. I haven't tried the things that you put in the Hotpot, but a Hotpot is basically a dish with, oh, it's delicious. You put soup. I like it for the format. Everybody sits around the table, okay? So you bring a bunch of friends in, and it's all you can eat, or you can order dishes. I always get all you can eat. It's like 30 bucks. Sounds expensive, but it's all you can eat for like 3 or 4 hours, and it's worth the experience. So you have like 10 friends, you're sitting around the table, they give you these Bunsen burners, or not Bunsen burners, but these like these portable open fire grills. And then they give you these soup. Like basically they give you a big pot of soup, and it's split down the middle, so you can have 2 different flavors, and if you have more friends, another pot, 2 different flavors, and you take your food, put it in a bowl, and then what you do is you start you cooking it in the soup. So it cooks there, and then you take it out and you eat it. All together, it's like fondue. It's delicious. So that's what I recommend. Coffee is making me burp, and I'm on camera. I don't like cutting my videos, so I try to hold my burps back because they're very loud. And also I'm thinking about food. My stomach's trying to clear some room for food. Let me touch on some other places. Let's do some honorable mentions. So I've mentioned the pubs. I've mentioned some good Oriental food. I've mentioned sushi. Indian food. Taste of India is a good place. They do really good food. Again, if you're from India and you're like, hey, I miss Indian food, and you're gonna go to a restaurant to eat Indian food, you know what food mom and dad used to make? Mommy and daddy used to make you Indian food? Get it at a restaurant. You want your butter chicken, maybe your aloo. It's gonna be expensive. Like, you're gonna pay $40 or $50 probably. Like getting a full, full table full or less of little dishes of Indian food. You're not going to have the same portions you had at home. So for international students coming from India, I understand what you're looking for. What I recommend doing is investing in a pressure cooker. Invest in a good, high quality pressure cooker. If you're coming from India, bring one from home. You only have a certain amount of suitcase space, so don't bring a massive pressure cooker. Dad used to cook with. I'm not even Indian, but I have so many Indian friends. I understand, like, I get the culture, and I think it's really cool, and they have some of the best food on this planet. What I recommend doing, bring a pressure cooker from home. Bring one of the small ones. Ask your mom or dad or your auntie or uncle or something to give you like a little pressure cooker, and something you can just put in the stove, and cook your stuff in it. And if you can customize it to your own taste, bring your spices from home. If you don't know what spices you're gonna get, depending on where you go in Canada. In Halifax, you should be able to buy everything, but there might be a few things. For example, like if I was coming back from Iran or something, I would bring saffron, because it's the most expensive spice in the world per gram, and I don't wanna buy that in Canada. While we have it, not everywhere has it. So again, that's an example. I don't know what Indian spices we wouldn't have here. We have all your basics to make your basic curry or your basic masala or any sort of dish that you want. But if there's a very specific food you enjoy, bring the spice. Bring the spice. Anyway, yeah, like you're probably not going to be able to facilitate eating outside every single day. It gets very expensive. There is no such thing as a $1 restaurant. It's very expensive after a period of time. And I'm not somebody who's like a cheap person. I've been through this. I've been like working and I love eating, and then I realized that my outside eating habits has accumulated to thousands of dollars. Not anymore, and not like in a month, but over a period of a year at school, it can get there. So that's what I recommend doing, really toning it down. I don't have much more time for this video. I have time, but I mean, I'm not sure if everyone else does. So be sure to drop me a subscription down below. This is a very detailed video on food in Halifax. So let me know if you have any more questions, and I'll be happy to help you. My name's Nader, and I hope you enjoy this video.